Welcome to another RSM Cloud Clip. My name is Ken Osterhaus, and I'm really excited to talk to you today about Azure Migrate. Whether you're exploring your options or you're ready to move today, Azure Migrate is a seamless, intuitive, and free solution that can help enable your cloud strategy. Today, I'm joined by one of our cloud architects, Eric Weinberg. Eric, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the way that you help clients migrate to the cloud?
Absolutely, Ken. So I've been with RSM for 7 years, but I didn't do cloud the entire time. I started off in general infrastructure like everyone does really in technology, but my interest for cloud grew quickly. And as I continued to grow in that workspace, one question popped into my head that's not why cloud, because we're all learning why cloud, cost, maintenance, highly available, it's redundant, but how cloud? How can you move from a robust built on-premises environment to a brand new environment in the cloud? It can be overwhelming, it can be scary. So my role and experience here at RSM is to help clients embrace Azure one step at a time.
Azure Migrate is your central hub for discovery, assessment, and migration. It supports on-premises apps, workloads, and virtual machines from private and public clouds. You can use it to assess VMware, Hyper-V, physical servers, databases, web apps, and virtual desktops. It's not just about moving servers, it's about planning smart, right-sized migrations. When it comes to Azure Migrate, how does this service fit into a client's journey, and how does it elevate their experience?
Absolutely. So Azure Migrate has many features, one of which is dependency analysis, which helps stakeholders answer the questions of, will my business critical workload operate the same, if not better, in Azure? And other features like cost optimization, right sizing, making sure that the mold that is being built in Azure fits the business needs. This flexibility means that you can bring nearly any workload into Azure, like you said, whether it's hosted on your on-premises data center or in other cloud-hosted services like GCP or AWS. You can do the classic lift and shift where you move it as is and dump it into Azure, or you can modernize and move away, like we said before, from a SQL hosted VM to Azure SQL DB or SQL managed instance, or maybe instead of running IIS on a virtual machine for a website, we're moving to Azure Web Services. There's a lot of capabilities and a lot of flexibility on how you can move to Azure.
Agent-based migrations are ideal when you need deep insights into your workloads. They install lightweight agents on source machines to collect data and replicate workloads. This method is great for complex environments, but requires more setup. Eric, in your experience, when does it make sense to use an agent-based migration?
Agent-based migrations are best for when you need granularity and when you have a mixed infrastructure environment. So if you have physical servers and you also use VMware as well as Hyper-V, kind of a mixed bag, agent-based is great because you can install it on the virtual machines and the physical server itself. Now when you do agent-based, that takes replication at the OS level. And this really helps because some backup solutions require snapshots at the host level, let's say in VMware. And agent-based takes the replication and puts it on the OS, not on the host, so it won't interfere with your backups.
Now that we talked about agent migrations, what about agentless migrations, right? Agentless migrations are simpler to deploy and work well for systems like VMware environments where there's no agents installed on those source machines, which will reduce your overhead. And it's a great option when you want to minimize disruption during discovery and assessment.
Agentless takes the replication workload off of the OS and puts it on the host. And this really helps because you don't have to manage an agent being installed on the OS. It's better for larger scale migrations. And each environment has its own complexities. And I think the big takeaway here is that Azure Migrate can adapt and simplify the process, whether it's agentless or agent-based.
When customers come to you and say, Eric, I need to take my environment from point A, whether that's on-premises or colo, somewhere else, and I need to get it to Azure. What are some of the common challenges that you see from these customers?
Yeah, change and hesitation come naturally together. And especially when it's a client's first introduction into the cloud ecosystem, will my operations work as normal? How will I maintain this? And that's where RSM and Azure Migrate helps build the roadmap to the future. It's not about rushing to the cloud, like we said before, it's about taking those calculated steps along the way. And with different features like Azure Test Migration, where you can do proof of concept or pilot scenarios, it helps you take Azure for a test spin before committing.
So Eric, I'm going to pick your brain a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about these test migrations.
So it's a function in Azure Migrate where, if architected correctly, you can have an isolated Azure environment where you move a copy of your on-premises servers to that bubbled environment. And there you can kind of have a sandbox to play around with how will my workloads actually function. You can see it live before actually committing. This really helps nail down proof of concept or pilot scenarios to give that comfort level, get it higher so you can move to Azure.
Now, here's the thing though, I thought Azure Migrate was a free tool. If you start moving these resources into what you call this bubble environment, don't I have to start paying for that?
You do. So Azure Migrate as a tool is free, so you won't pay for any of the actual deployment of the tool, but when you do the test migration feature, you do have to pay for those services as they are consuming resources. They're essentially your production environment in Azure. Maybe it's bubbled, but they're still using compute resources and things like that. So that cost does come into play.
So it's a factor to consider.
Absolutely, and it's usually why we try to keep the POC or pilots scenarios shorter, maybe a 1 or 2 week span, to kind of limit those costs as much as possible.
Well, Eric, it really was a pleasure to talk to you today. Wherever you are at in your cloud journey, Azure Migrate is a great tool to help enable your organization. And if you want to get that total consulting experience, lean on the experts to accelerate that growth.